الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Everyone, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Please forgive us for the lateness, but inshallah ta'ala, we will be starting soon. Welcome to the podcast for the solution. Imam Khalil, Imam Muhammad, Imam Malik, and Brother Saleh Abdul Mujeeb. This topic today, this most beautiful topic, is something that I had. It's kind of like a spin-off of what I spoke about before. Inshallah ta'ala, I would like for us to really dive in on it too. And I want us to all piggyback on once the other brothers come, and it's called apostasy and sinning. Does sinning make you apostate? Forgive me, does sinning make you apostate? Right? And this is a beautiful, beautiful topic that was on my mind, continuously about things. Right? When we think about when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke about that every sin you do, it accumulates a black dot onto your heart. Right? And just think about a lot of the sins that we do that goes unnoticed. That really goes unnoticed on a continuous basis. That the sins that we do openly and the sins that we do hidden, how in a society today that sinning openly is not as frowned upon as it should be. It's not as frowned upon as it should be. That it's almost like it's praised to sin openly. In our society we call that keeping it real. That we'd rather be an open sinner than a person who hides their sin and tries their best to be a righteous person. And think about all of the sins that we do that goes without turning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of doing tawbah. That we let the sins be to the point where that we accumulate so many sins that our hearts become black and no good is able to enter and the bad is not able to exit. So think about that all the time. Just think about how we live on a basis where all the things we do consciously, again, and subconsciously, we don't try to rectify the matter with repenting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we look now, right, and we look into our culture now, into the inner city culture, that due to sin, right, it allows the shaitan to attack us and to think that there's no way that we will be forgiven no matter what sin we have committed. And then it leads to us either disobeying Allah to the point where it's hard for us to get back on track to start worshiping Allah again, or it leads to apostasy. And if we go according to, the hadith, when the Prophet ﷺ said that what distinguishes a believer from a non-believer is the salah. So normally, when you commit sins, the first thing to go is the salah. That you start procrastinating with offering the salah on its proper time, to the point where you give up on it all around the board. So, according to the Hanbali school of thought, they say that once you abandon the salah, you are labeled as a non-believer. The Shafi school says that it does not make a person a non-believer, but it makes them a sinful Muslim. But if we took the opinion of, Ahmed ibn Hanbali, rahimahullah ta'ala, that abandoning the salah make us a disbeliever. Forgive me, I'm extremely tired. So just think about that. Think about how we sin so much that we abandon the salah, and then we are questioned about, then it goes into if it's, that we're in question that if we're Muslim or not due to us not performing in salah. And one of the major sins that we go that that we can't ignore a lot is eating zabiha, eating halal food, right? Eating halal food. That we go, we accumulate uh, so much najis, which Imam Khalil he said the best. He said, eating not halal food is just that you're eating najis. So we're continuously eating najis. We're putting filth into our stomachs. That just imagine by us doing that, how much sins we are accumulating due to us just eating non-halal meat. See, I'm happy they ain't on here too because I'm saying meat a lot. That I would have had to say pause, but alhamdulillah. But just think about it on that end. All right. So we got, committing small sins that take us away from the salah, and then going into, just eating non-haram meat. I mean halal meat. What it does to us as well, right? And these are some of the things, well, one of the things that we neglect the most, right? That we will, right? Especially in certain areas that we live in, such as Philadelphia, South Jersey area, where we can go find Crown fried chickens and all these other things that we can get fast food at, but we bypass that and we're going to a McDonald's, knowing that this food was slaughtered in a manner that is not, proper in Islam. Imam Khalil, assalamu alaikum. Oh, guess he left. This is phone messed up too. But right, we will bypass eating halal to go to the McDonald's and the Wendy's and the Chick-fil-A, all these type of things, which goes unnoticed, and that we're constantly accumulating a black dot on our heart due to us just not eating halal food. And the next one is the big, is one of the big things. I think one of the biggest problems that we are having in our, in our inner city culture is that zina. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to stay away from it. And that, this is a common thing due to our culture, how we was brought up, that, the more, women you had and that you had sex with, you was a cool guy. You was the guy who everyone loves to be, right? He got all the women. He got all this. So zina is one of the biggest things, too, in our culture that we do and that we don't, offer Tobah and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us on these things, right? So this sin here, puts these black dots on your heart, and then the first thing that goes away is the salat, and when the salat goes away, you lose the connection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as we said, if we took the opinion of Ahmed ibn Hanbali, your Islam is in question. The Shafis is a little bit more lenient. We're kind of strict with a lot of things. We can't even touch our wives. You know what I mean? And it'll break your wudu, right? Like, we're lenient with that, but we're stern with that. But when it comes to the salah, we say that she's a sinful Muslim. But Imam Ahmed said no, this person's Islam is in question, and they used the evidence of Ali, right? Radiallahu anhu. So we have to really think back on what are we doing to fix these type of things if sinning can lead to you leaving Islam. And Imam Khalil, what's going on? Assalamu alaikum.
Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You can hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit till I get out the car. I could sit down and talk a little bit more, inshallah.
Okay.
But how do you feel about some of the things I said as of now, that these two, one smaller issue, and then two, one of the biggest issues. I kind of went from the small to the extreme. One that doesn't go, that we don't put notice in, and then one that that is common but is not good in our community, such as the smaller thing, such as
Right.
eating halal food that we neglected eating halal food and then committing zina. How do you feel about that?
Well, usually, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, sallallahu alayhi Sayyidina Muhammad alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.
Wa alaikum salam. See you later, Taha.
You have to kind of like, have to try to cure the entire sickness. So when you're talking about apostasy and also with sinning, they are looked at like as if almost like one and the same, but Islamically it's not, because you got to go back. Our foundation in Aqidah, sins doesn't take you outside of Islam, right? However, believing that a sin is permissible makes you a disbeliever. Meaning, if you deny the ayat, like you mentioned about zina, Allah Ta'ala tells you in the Quran, La taqribu zina, don't even go near zina. If you deny it and saying, no, there's nothing wrong with the permissibility of zina, with me being able to get a girlfriend, a boyfriend, etc., there's nothing wrong with that, then what happens is that you become a disbeliever. Now, however, the Prophet ﷺ did mention that at the time of the person they committing a sin, their iman is hovering over them. Their iman is left them, right? Because if the iman was strong at that moment, then you wouldn't go near those particular sins, right? Now, what happens is in today's time, you have a lot of things that affect, the everyday Muslim in their theory when it comes to engaging in sins. Number one, we know for a certain that it's a sign usually that there's some sort of weakness, and deficiency in their belief about the hereafter, right? Every time you commit a sin, you're doing that sin, you're jeopardizing your afterlife. However, a sin can be forgiven if one makes tawbah, but part of the conditions of that particular tawbah is that you have to leave that particular sin. And this is what the Prophet said, when the person stops that error, that sin, their iman returns back to them, right? So now why did you stop that sin? Not stopping like, oh, let me finish up doing what I'm doing, but stopping that sin because it becomes in your mind and it comes back to the heart. You know what? Subhanallah, I ain't supposed to be doing this. Now, what you also have that plays a part is the person that's not a learned individual, ignorance. People practice things and do things out of ignorance and refuse to give it up. And then when that ignorance, and you build habits based on your ignorance, right? Most people are like, well, if I don't know, then I'm not accountable. Actually, you are. But when you're not knowing, you build a lifestyle up on your ignorance. So therefore, what happens is you may have uttered the shahada, the kalima la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, right? But the belief isn't sound, and whatever you were doing prior to that, you continue to do it, right? You continue that same lifestyle. People could still continue that same lifestyle. So you'll have this, you'll have this as a practice. The second thing, you might got the guy who's ignorant, but they think that they're smart, but they're still ignorant. These kind of individuals, they promote this idea that basically you can't, nothing, like basically you can't, how can I say it? I can't, like almost like nothing's going to take me outside of Islam. My Islam is between me and Allah, right? They take on that type of approach too. But there's certain behaviors, certain beliefs, certain practices, right? That gives a signification. Like Sheikh Uthman Dan Fodio Taqaddam bi rahmati Ameen, he mentions in his Umdatul Ulama that the path of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that the path of the people of the Sunnah in the collective, the collective, the Jama'ah, that we believe that sins don't take us outside of Islam. However, sins do jeopardize your entrance into paradise without any type of accountability. Sins also can, especially if they're unrepented for and unforgiven, can subjugate you to the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to place you in hellfire, right? So we understand that. The second thing is that you can't declare any of the people of Ahlul Qibla, any of the people of the Qibla, right, to be a disbeliever except when there's uttered a statement or an action that is done that will take them outside of Islam, right? So understand that. So if you understand that, then you'll understand that sins in and of itself doesn't necessarily take you outside of Islam unless you verbalize that particular, that particular thing and deem it to be lawful or deem something that is halal to be unlawful, right? That's when you start, or an obligation not to be an obligation. This is where you start entering into that realm of apostasy. But however, sometimes the things that we let go undressed, it opens up that door, that slippery slope where we start going downhill. And meaning that you're already engaged in sins to the point now it's hard for you to break it. Now it's hard for you to break it. Or if you experience something in life and now all of a sudden you're giving up on Islam. You're giving up on, you no longer pray. I'm going through something right now. I'm depressed, right? And so now, and this is something that's very popular. You'll find people now, catering or using their depression or their current situation, their lifestyle as an excuse. Using that as an excuse to abandon prayer, right? They use that as the excuse. I'm going through something right now. I just got divorced. I lost this, I lost that, etc., etc. And they use that as the excuse, the reason on why they're no longer praying. You understand what I'm saying? That's why they use that. They use that as the excuse. And so, now that becomes, that thing. So then they be like, well, I ain't ascribed partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so therefore I didn't die up on kufr. But understand that we as Muslims, we believe, alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We as Muslims, we believe that Allah Ta'ala, what Allah Ta'ala send down, to us and what comes from the Prophet Sallallahu, that is what we follow. That is what we're up on, right? So therefore, we have to know that there's checks and balances, right? But then the other thing is that we have to begin to understand the other dynamic is that we can't let our life events deter us or get in the way, because there's always um shaitan, constantly whispering. But more importantly, you have to put the nafs in check, because we're only going to do the whispers of shaitan is very simple. Think about it. You can get rid of shaitan by saying one thing, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, right? But however, the shaitan will come back and keep whispering and keep pushing, right? Why? Because the nafs, what's deep down in the nafs, what you desire, the nafs is the recalcitrant lover, the side man, the side piece. That's what the nafs is, right? The nafs is letting you know, shaitan, hey, listen, discipline is out of the way. Mujahida is gone. Come on through, right? That's what the nafs tells you. That's what the lower self does, calls you to. And so then people become addicted, claiming addiction, become addicted to these particular things because they're not doing those things that are necessary in within Islam to tame the nafs. Instead of decrease of eating and drinking in order to tame the nafs, we increase in eating and drinking. Not only do we increase in eating and drinking, but now we justify on eating haram food, which increase the desires, right? You are what you eat. You represent what you eat, right? We have to keep these things in mind. These things are constantly, at play and also working against us. The nafs is commanding, a nafsu amru bisu, right? That commanding nafs, that nafs of that desire is commanding you, right? So you abandon prayer because you really wanted to abandon prayer, regardless whether it's from laziness or whatever the case is. You're abandoning the prayer because this is what you want to do. Something that you don't have no control over that make you miss the prayer is like a person falling asleep before Isha time. Isha come in, he falls asleep and he wakes up at Fajr, right? That's something you didn't have control over, right? Because the time for Isha wasn't in, and then you fell asleep and that time had lapsed. But however, something desiring food, you have to begin to uh discipline the soul and teach the soul. Number one, this can be helped. Solution number one, a lot of people be like, what's the solution? How do you help yourself against sin? Number one, think about, what, well, firstly, read what Allah Ta'ala mentions in the Quran about the hellfire and about paradise, right? Think about your body, how your body can't handle it. You can't handle fire in this dunya. Your skin will burn off, burn down to the nerves, right? Think about what you can't handle fire in this life, right? So think about that Allah Ta'ala is going to punish you with 70 a fire that is 70 times hotter, and there's no way for you to escape that. At that point, you're subjugated to the mercy, the punishment of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and you're praying for His mercy to remove you from that particular punishment, right? So if you think you got a problem now, you're really gonna have a problem, right? So that's solution number one. Think about what your body can't handle. Know about those things. Know for certain, and you have to believe in it as though, like like you see it. Think about paradise like as if when you die, you're gonna die. That's what you're gonna get. That will help you to stay away from that, right? Many people didn't break curfew because they knew that Mom Dukes or Pop Dukes was gonna wear that butt out if you came in after curfew, right? Well, think about the punishment of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is worse than that, right? So therefore, you have to begin by doing that. Then there's other things like you mentioned, cut back. Sometimes you might be eating too much halal, right? And it starts to show because we get overweight, right? Too much halal, right? Usually what sets the good mood? What's a good night, with a husband and wife? We ain't gonna talk about no boyfriend and girlfriend, right? What's a good night? A movie, dinner, take her home for the winter, right? That's usually a good night. That increase in food, right? That food and drink, it makes you lazy to some extent, right? Then you get your wind up. By the time y'all finish walking, on a good night, nice cool night like tonight, y'all walking, hand in hand in front of, down by the water side or something like that, getting your play on, right? Then you go home. That's a good night, right? But however, think about all of those things that are haram, how people are gearing up, as we talk right now, people are gearing up to go out to go do haram things, even Muslims, right? Think about it. So those things, when you don't trust Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, right? Where people go out and they start doing things, illicit and lewd things for money, right? Whether it be go sell drugs, sell a body, do FanDuel, OnlyFans, all of these things that are happening. That weakness is there. What's that weakness? That weakness is that you do not trust Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala tells us in the Quran that He's Ar-Razaq. He's the one that make the provisions for you. But you don't really believe that when you open up that door to go do the haram thing. You won't come out and verbalize it, but you'll go and do the haram action, right? But doing the haram action still doesn't take you outside of Islam. But what it does expose is that you have some deficiency, some weakness. You have weakness in your Islamic belief. Go ahead, sorry, I'm gonna step back for a second.
No, alhamdulillah, no, you're right, man. He speaks about these certain type of sins, like the minor sins, which like procrastinating on the salah, and then he goes into speaking of like some of the major sins, which tawbah is needed for these things. But he spoke of three. I forgot the second one. But what I was getting at, like, yeah, you're absolutely right. The sin does not take you out of Islam, right? And one of the valid points I was making, right, is that when we do commit these sins, it takes us away from your personal obligation, from your fard eye, right? When you constantly commit these sins, it takes you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when I was saying, like, one of the things that, that we neglect after we sin so much is that we put off the prayer, right? That is our connection, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My teacher Mujeeb Salam, Hafidullah, he said, no matter what you are going through, keep your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pray, right? Pray. And when we get, when we neglect that, what else do we have? And as I was saying that, of course, what you were just saying, but you didn't break down the salat. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah ta'ala, says, once you neglect this the salat, his position on not praying is that you are kafir, right? So it's like, do we even want to, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, go between that little thin line? Do we want to, play with that middle course? Is it, am I this? Am I that? No, no. So the thing is, we should try to stay away from these sins as much as possible. And one of the things how we stay away from sins is that we have to start keeping in good company. One of the issues that we have, right? And some of our sisters, I would like the sisters to interact with this too, because I want y'all to interact more when it comes to, you know, deen aspects instead of the hot topics. We ain't talking about marriage. You know what I mean? Y'all kind of disappear on us. You know what I mean? We don't want to be the halal Kevin Samuels. No, we don't want to do that. We're still teachers at the end of the day, right? So just think about how a lot of our women fall victim, right? And then I'm going to use us. With us is more. It's more a little bit more like dang near dying need, right? But with us, how often do a lot of our sisters say, "I don't have friends," right? I don't hang with girls. They're catty, right? But the friends you do got, they're not good for you. None of them pray. None of them are Muslim. None of them are this. None of them are that, right? And your nefs, your desires, right? You still feel as though you want to look pretty sometimes, and sometimes this kimar, this jalbab is holding you back, right? It's holding you back, and all your friends look pretty. They got their purses out, they showing their curves, and you're constantly fighting that desire every day, right? So now you're around bad company that does not remind you of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. In summary of the narration of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he spoke about keeping good company, right? It's like walking into a fragrance store, right? And the least thing you would have when exiting is the fragrance on you. And keeping bad company is what? What did they say? Khalil, is like being a blacksmith. All right, I can't hear you. You're muted. You're muted again.
I was answering your questions like being a blacksmith, like being a blacksmith, being around a blacksmith. You're gonna
It's like
smell like that smoke.
right,
Or
and that's
today, just hanging out with the average Muslim that smoke weed all day, or
right.
smoke cigarettes, or just smoke Black and Miles. Whatever it is that they're smoking and drinking, you're gonna take on that smell.
Exactly. And then that thing is a tear at your desires, or pick at your desires. And with men, sometimes we neglect being around the brothers, right? When stuff get real, when stuff get hard, we may lose our job, we may do this. You know what I mean? Instead of sticking around the brothers, we go back to shoot them up, bang bang. We go holler at
Well,
boombox.
usually that's one of the signs is people normally go around who they want to be around, who you want that advice from. If you want somebody that's gonna like, talk that sinful talk with you, and don't be a reminder to you, then you're gonna be around those type of people. You're gonna seek out those kind of people. You're gonna the people that's gonna accept the type of Islam you're giving. You know, that's one of the biggest dilemmas when you have two people who are not compatible Islamically, where they're not compatible, and they're seeking be married to one another. You know, and sometimes you look at it as a reflection in our family life too. Sometimes we will marry someone that isn't compatible, and then y'all have children, and so now you like doing three times the work, of trying to raise, Muslim children, because one of the two parents, ain't on that, ain't Islam ain't the priority. They rather you be your child be the nerd, or the gay cashier at Target, or the sports jock, is always, but when it comes to being like half of the Quran, that's why movies like that remember that movie Muslim? Remember that movie Muslim, where they
Yeah, when
vilify,
they
they
yeah when they
demonize
made it seem like yeah
madrasas,
they like
all the madrasas just beat and molest
yeah
children and
beat
all
the
that.
kids and molest children. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was one thing I didn't like. I didn't like that movie for
and
that.
so, and then also they make made the father's image to be extremely, and usually, and what's crazy is I think the author was a black author. I think they were a black Muslim writer, so therefore, once again, they make it as if, the man, his Islam is one thing and the woman's Islam is something different. And you even have that tailored, in the deen, where you even have married women, and think about it. We're not going into, we're not coming into Islam being honest with ourselves. You have to deprogram yourself. Whatever you was doing before Islam, you got to deprogram yourself. I be seeing so many Muslims. You know how many Muslims I be seeing that used to be part gang and all that, and they're writing black, BLAKK, right, or BLACC, and all of these things that signify that they was one part gang. They haven't left the culture. They still on it banging a red and black, and on blue and gray and things of that nature. They haven't let it go, right? And then on top of that, you may not even had a person or a woman that's from the streets, but she can't let go of feminism, right? She comes in already. You were taught to hate men. You come in, more man hating, right? You come in just feminine, and you learn how to pray and all that. And you're the good sister, and as soon as you marry, all the feminist characteristics come out. Or you might marry that guy who he I wouldn't say he hates women, but he's definitely he shows tendencies of women hatred, or he may have some unresolved issues and things of that nature. And then when you talk to him, he can't get away from that. Man, these bents is crazy. He can't pull away from that joint. He just stays with it. We don't come into Islam as an empty cup. We come in as a full cup, or we may come in as half full or half empty, whichever one you want to say it. Think about it. You see, there's a bottle here, right? I got a bottle. I don't know if y'all can see it on my camera, right? So there's a little bottle here. So you imagine a bottle half full, and then you take and pour pure water in there, but in that bottle is liquor and tobacco guts and cigarette butts and everything like that, and you pour fresh water in there. You think you're gonna drink that? No, right? And you keep pouring it and hoping that all of the residue that's inside the bottle is gonna overspill and come out. You know what I'm saying? But you run out of water to pour, and so now what you have is water, and you still have the residue. Some of it may have came out, but it's still a whole bunch of. You still see the cigarette butts floating around. You still see the tobacco guts. You still see the suds from the beer. You still all the residue is still in there. It may not have been as solid as the first time, but you poured it in there and you got some of it out, but not all of it. Right? That's many of our situations. We're coming in with all of this stuff and we don't think nothing is wrong with us, right? And we come in and we're moving so fast. One thing about, when somebody's moving fast, like you know what I'm talking about. So that quick crackhead, he gotta put the moves on you. He talk to you so fast, you moving. And sometimes we be moving so fast and doing so much that we be thinking we don't see the burnout, but the burnout is on its way. Then you hit the wall and you fall off. That's how you fall back into that era. You never gave up certain sins, but you're moving fast. You're trying to climb the ladder real quick. You trying to get to the top real quick, right? And you missed a lot of things on the way up. And then when you crash the fall, it's real hard. It hits you real hard when you fall. So one of the things of breaking out of that habit of sin is that you gotta come through and understand that, yo, I'm not totally well. I'm trying to get right. And that's what Islam is bringing to me. But because everybody's bringing, they haven't finished being who they were, and they bring it with them, right? They bring it with them. All men can't be evil, right? You hate men, you come in Islam, you hated men before Islam, you come in Islam, you hate men, and then all of a sudden now you pushing a lesbianism, right? Same thing with men, you pushing homosexual agenda, right? You ain't done. Some of us have real low self-esteem. We don't think much of ourselves. So you come in Islam and you think everybody's just looking at you and going to condemn you, and so you don't even try to practice Islam. You're like, man, they just they might kill me, right? And it's sad to say, if you're a person of color, whether it's black, Latino, wherever, long as you got a darker shade, you already subjected. You already got a death certificate waiting for you.
Yeah.
So the sinfulness, we got to pull away from that. That's the whole objective of coming to Islam, is to save yourself from the hellfire. That's the whole objective. But you can't have that strong connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that strong insight where you see paradise in its reality, where you think of paradise. Like yesterday, I mentioned an ayat in the Quran where Allah Ta'ala talked about in paradise we'll have gold plates and gold cups, and in those cups it'll be whatever you desired, right? And so in Jannah you'll get those things that you avoided. If you a person that like to drink, and I made light of it, I made a joke. I said, you might like Cokie 900 or some Old English, or something like that, or you might like that Henny or whatever that drink is. It's going to be better than that, right? But it's what you're going to get.
Yeah, let's not talk about that before we have some brothers relapse.
Hey, yo, listen. If they like it,
they're gonna be like, oh, well, I remember that Coke 45.
Sin, die up on that. Avoid the sins and die up on that joint.
Right. And that 211. That 211.
This is still reserved 211. That's the poor man liquor, boy. Dude, you get bit.
Get bit, right? Oh, I'd rather be live. That 211. But no, thinking about 211.
On some serious though. But listen though, hold up. Before we go any further, right? I like to see some likes being given. Right now, we only got one. Come on, people. Give us some likes, right? Give us a like. Give us a share, inshallah. Now we'll proceed on with
and I don't like I said, I don't want us to feel as though we get the best audience when we're talking about the hottest topics. Because at the end of the day, we have to start learning our religion. But
it's
talking
natural
about that, man.
It's natural because everybody think they're a marriage guru. You know what I'm saying? Everybody think they're a marriage guru.
Right? This the new thing. You know what I mean? And I want us to get back to traditional learning our religion, because when we learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we stay close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Not just talking about why brother Abdullah can't get straight. You know what I mean? Me, I'm just speaking me. I'm just, I want us to be able to have these conversations where, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is blessing these podcasts, because they turn into halakas. People are listening to deen.
Right.
It's cool for us to get a little saucy, a little halachit, halal ratchet, you know what I mean? Don't use that. Don't bite that soon. Nobody in the comments, don't bite that halachit. Don't be biting the slang. But yeah, we gotta get back into speaking in that. You know what I mean? And really learning our religion again. But piggybacking what you were saying, just even talking about that, right? Mm-hmm. Where I'm going over it with my Saleh, right? My Saleh, just looking at some things where one of the Normandies, he speaks about drinking. And he uses he said that the Prophet ﷺ said, scourge whoever drinks wine. If he drinks it again, scourge him again, meaning beat him. If he drinks it again, you say beats him again. If he drinks it a fourth time, kill him. A'udhu billah. So just imagine how often we hear and we look at any type of khamr, any type of intoxicants as a, that it's okay for us to do on a daily basis. With the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after the fourth time, we would be out of here. And he said the ruling of this hadith was later suspended for the Prophet ﷺ. He was brought a drunkard for the fourth time, and he did not kill him, showing him that the execution has been suspended. Though the hadith remains a proof that the crime of drunkenness is an enormity. So even just think about that, and this was this hadith also coincides when he spoke about the man who was, that he's going to be amongst the people who he loves,
No.
and we got to think of, we got to think about that too. Like, how much do we love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How much do we love the Muslims? Because it gets so bad now in our culture when we sin so much that once you out of your thobe, we don't see you in your thobe no more. We don't see you in your overgarments no more. You barely get a salam out of someone.
No.
And
At one point in time, though, everything that reminds us of Allah, you had the opposite right there next to it. So, like for instance, at one point in time, you remember how a lot of men used to always wear thobe, and thobe, for some reason, you get superpowers. You feel like you Superman, and then that person who don't wear thobe is like, he just like looks at you like, you ain't better than me because you wear a thobe, But the little things, we take away those little marks, those little markers. Like for instance, I was in a group, and they were talking about the whole term of the high value man term, right? And so my take on it was, I was like, listen, it does give some men something to aspire to be, right? The same way when a person is learning something about Islam, they may not necessarily do it, but it gives them something to aspire to be. But because, we always kind of like putting out there that opposite argument against that, it take away the aspiration, or it puts the person, leave that person in that realm, that stagnation. It's like like a woman who's able to cover herself, it gives the other women something to aspire to be, and when you take that away, you take that inspiring, that inspiring factor. Some people need need each other, like that suhbah, that camaraderie. You need that other person that'll bring out the best in you, right? And that's usually what we hope for in spouses and things of that nature. That's what the parents are supposed to be for the children. You're supposed to be able to bring the best out of that child, No.
all right. Subhanallah. Just thinking about this, just the sinning, then, these the haram, right? What question for you. What is one of the major things, since we're going back to this, I guess I don't want to dive into this red pill, blue pill thing. What is the major argument of the red pill, blue pill thing, Imam Khalil?
For real?
Mm-hmm.
Red pill is basically telling men, how they should be men, right? According to that philosophy of whoever's teaching, because not all things can Muslims take from that whole that red pill philosophy. And the blue pill is kind of like placing men in a particular place, but also, and this is how I define it, but also showing or encouraging to have a caring demeanor, which sometimes is looked as a compromise, as being compromised. Right. Caring demeanor towards women. Let me rephrase that.
Right,
which is looked at as compromise. Now, and there's some truth to the claim of compromising, and then there's some that you got to reject that.
Right, and this is what I was looking at. Right, just scrolling through the masculine woman and the effeminate men. Right. He said the Prophet ﷺ said men are already destroyed when they obey women. Mm-hmm. And then he goes into say that the Prophet ﷺ said, curse the effeminate men and the masculine women. Mm-hmm. So this was something that the Prophet ﷺ spoke about years ago that we're facing as of right now, okay. That's a major sin that's going on in our communities as of right now. The masculine woman, the feminine man.
A lot
Right?
of, I think a lot of that too is driven behind. That's one of the signs of the end of time too. That's one of the signs of the end of time. There's a philosophy behind the masculine, the emasculated men and the masculine woman too. There's a philosophy that's connected to it. I'm not talking about the hadith. I'm just talking about what what we're witnessing.
No, right, right, and just knowing that the Prophet ﷺ knew this was coming and warned us about this, right? Warned us about this, and like you said, look at it right now, right? Look at everything now, right? How even some of these things go hand in hand. How you know women are raising their masters, where the kids dictate the home, right?
Hmm.
Women are saying they're living for their children. The man, the husband is secondary. And as we spoke about, the masculine men and the masculine women, right? The masculine men and the masculine women, right? The nudity. Look at man, all this is coming into play. The sexy reds. What's the other ugly girl name? Sanuki, Sususi. Come on, sisters, y'all on here. What's that sister name who's getting flagged right now for twerking on the red carpet?
I know you talking about what's her
What's
name?
her name? Come on, sister Suzuki. What's her name? Sasaki. What's her name? It's something like that.
Ain't nobody gonna try to put that in the chat. They first.
They trying to hide now. You get what I'm saying? That women are dressing naked. What's the girl name who lost her husband because she want to be naked
There
dancing
you
on
go.
Usher?
What's her name? Sukiana.
Sukiana.
Nah.
Right?
Just so y'all see it. Our audience. Sukiana. That's what they say. No.
You know what I mean? And then the other girl who was dancing on Usher coming out half naked.
You know that, be honest with you, a lot of sins that we're doing, right? A lot of sins that are being committed. And when I'm talking about the people who blame it on their, life changing events or depression or anything like that, we're talking about the person that just do every sin. We're walking around with our sins in our pocket. That's social media, your phone. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned about where people will commit a sin by night and brag about it by the day, saying, oh people, look what I did by the day. We are literally living that. Every sin that people are committing, they're recording it. They're recording it, from murder, right? Intermingling with men and women, nakedness, right? Sex fornication. People are doing that now on video. I ain't talking about pornography. Well, I'm not, pocket pornography, basically off your phone, right? All of those particular sins, you listen to it now. Music was illicit in the past, but it's really illicit now. You got women running around talking about. I just seen it. Somebody on a video. What's it talking about? I'm going to find my baby, a step pappy or something like that. All of this stuff, and it plays on the psyche, and so people take on that type of mentality. And now everybody wants to go to Pound Town. Think about it. Words, meanings of words, and how words are expressed, they change like every other year, or every year, really, for real, every 6 months. They change. And how is it changed? And how is it spread? Through media. We're exposing our sins. Some people watch so much sins that what they call it, self-actualization, where they self-actualize themselves. Most people are so violent today because they're watching all of the violence on TV screens. And they visualize themselves getting in a rumble. They visualize themselves being a shooter. They visualize themselves being a bank robber. They visualize themselves doing all of these particular things, right? Because why? You walking around with these sins right here in your pocket. So,
Right. And one guy, right? I use it as wisdom. He said something. He said, he broke it down. I was like, wow, this dude is on the money. He said, he said, how can we speak about peace? When we in the club or vibing in the club, we listen to this murder music. He said he called it homicidal music. So as you said, this music that we listening to now is even back then, right? It's kind of like, I think once the '90s left, love left, right? I think love left, right? And just think about all the songs from the '80s to the '70s to the '60s. Everything was about love, right? Love, peace. What was going on? What was what's a boy name that got killed by his dad? I'm tired, man. You gotta
Marvin Gaye.
Marvin Gaye. I mean, Mercy Me, conscious songs, right? Now we just think about, now everything is about killing someone, sliding on somebody. And to the point where it's incriminating these young men because they're rapping about stuff and people that really died from something that happened within their inner circle. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of this stuff is poisoning the fuck, man. The heart, man, is destroying our heart. And then we love it. Like you said, you're imagining yourself being that. You listening to this music the whole time. Like, I was just arguing with Abdul about King Von, man. I said, it's evidential that this man was a stone cold serial killer. You know what I mean? Like this, and we're praising this young boy. This boy was a serial killer.
I still think he's better than Lil Durk.
I don't like none of them compared to Herbo. I like Herbo more than any of them. I'm still like a backpack rapper. I like flippity floppity, whippity woppity. I like double entendres and stuff like that. I don't want to hear about people dying all day. But yeah, man. But no,
So
that's
I
messed
mean,
up.
as far as that, man, you have to begin to you got to find less entertainment in that kind of stuff. That's why I'll tell you a little fun fact about me. I don't like black movies. They're all the same. I don't like black movies.
Me neither.
I will watch some white boys on motorcycles with chains and boots kill each other all day before I watch like a whole bunch of black men. I can't stand them. Because the movie that you're showing is actually a reality. Now, I ain't on front. It might be a reality with the motorcycle white boys with the boots on and stuff, but guess what? I ain't into that stuff. So this is entertaining to me. It's fantasy. You know what I'm saying? And then you have to be careful not to get so consumed with that because, that's the other thing. Television will consume you, bro. Before you know it, 8 hours done went by and you done nothing. When you could have been learning the eye of the things of that nature, and we're not even putting nothing in the tank. The heart has to be filled up with nur in order for light to come out of it, right? This is part of principles of Aqidah. What is the Sunni belief? That Iman is in the heart, right? But it's also demonstrated off of the tongue and off of the limbs. If you ain't got it in the heart, you ain't got nothing, right? And usually what's in is going to come out, right? So if you ain't putting in no nur, you spending all your time listening to Suki Hana and Little Von, King Von and Dirk and all them dudes all day long, which people do from the time they wake up, they turn on music, right? Turn on TV. Like we even ruin our kids, man. We having the baby ain't even out of diapers yet. He don't even know how to hold his bottle, but that joker can sit there and hold a tablet and watch Coco Mango until it run out of style. You see what I'm saying? Oh, Coco Melon. I said Coco Mango.
You said Coco Mango. What, you thirsty? What you want a mango Arizona iced tea? What you thirsty?
But people will literally do this, and we program our children like this. And then, I mean, this stuff, this same, and this leads is a gateway to more sin. Yeah, it may be harmless. It depends on what you're watching. It may be harmless, but it's the gateway. It's the gateway. It's a gateway drug, just like they say marijuana is the gateway drug. If you ask most dope fiends, they used to smoke weed before they started using dope. Right? And so the same thing with the, all day television, all day rap music. And why don't none of our kids memorize Quran? But they be knowing every single song that comes on. Every single song that comes on. And then we got the nerve. We allow them to listen to it and we support it. And then we come on and start having podcasts talk about some, we shouldn't be supporting what's Umar Johnson's side piece, Sukiana. You know, dudes is
Yeah,
grinding.
side piece.
Dudes is grinding about that joint. he had a date with Sukiana. All of a sudden, you leave that sister. If she's open to my guidance, I will save her. That's a problem too, brothers. Y'all always think y'all can save everybody. Allah Ta'ala is the one who gives hidayah. You know what I'm saying? When we recite what's that, 20 something times a day, Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Allah guide us to that straight path. Allah gives hidayah. Not you, not the Shango stick, right? It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who gives that hidayah. So you know we have to keep that in mind. But to avoid sinning, first of all, I think we already established the fact that sins don't take you outside of Islam. But consistency in sinning could jeopardize your Islam. You engage in sins, right? You engage in sins based off of the strength of your iman, the strength of your belief. The stronger your belief is, the less likely you're going to sin. And if you do sin, it's less likely you'll go back and do that sin again. The weaker you are, the more likely and easier it is for you to sin, right? So we understand that. So the next thing is what? Start to begin to learn those things that's going to increase you in your iman. Decrease in the media. Decrease in the overeating and drinking, right? Even decrease in constantly talking, right? If you're a person that likes to gossip and backbite, because that's another thing that kills your good deeds. If you're a person like to gossip and backbite, only thing I tell you is find a movie, a fiction book, you know, you and your spouse, you know, get down on that joint and talk about that person versus talking about people for real, right? Or engaging. You have to try to minimize, visualize yourself going to the fire and there's no escape and you can't get away. Your body can't handle it. If
And
you're
ain't and there's no rebuttals, y'all. No
nope,
rebuttals.
nope. So
Can't rebuttal your way out of that.
This is the absolute solution against the sinning. There's no problem that you're going to go through in life that requires you to take a break from salat, no matter what it is. Because why? The believer, we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do these things because it's an obligation. We do this because it's what Allah commands of us, right? Allah ta'ala mentions in the Quran that you won't find a believer, a believing man, believing women, having another opinion after Allah and his messenger. Try to let that permeate on the heart. Because sometimes we got too much to talk about after Allah Ta'ala has revealed the ayat, right? A lot of the controversy that Islam, you know, Western Islam is built behind is them actually, we thinking we criticizing the male or the female, but you actually criticizing Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, because you can't be mad at the person who's conveying the message without being mad at the one who originated the message. So you have to start to take these things in consideration, right? These things will pull you away from sin. Don't take sin lightly. The more you take sin lightly, the more you'll engage in it. And death is sudden. People are dying now. People dying crossing the street, especially living in Philly. Dudes just run through red light, run you over. Keep right on going. People shooting, you know, mass shootings, all of these things. People health is bad. Dudes eating like 5 of them haram Big Macs back to back, have a heart attack. All of these things are happening and people are dropping dead, right? So this is something that you have to keep in, you know.
Let's not mention is a guy who died from eating one chip. From that hot chip challenge. A man died from that recently.
SubhanAllah.
From a potato chip.
La ilaha illallah.
So yeah, you're right, man. We gotta get together. One solution, as we said, man, you gotta start keeping good company. Stop making excuses on why we don't want better for ourselves. Find out what these issues are and conquer those issues that we are having. If you feel as though you can't be around particular people and these people can benefit, you know, that you can benefit from these people, learn why you don't want to be around these people, right? Learn what's keeping you away. Tackle that. Tackle these obstacles by learning about how, you know, because the Quran is a healing, is a shifa, right? So it's a healing. So go into the Quran, dive into the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet and find out how we tackle these diseases that we have, right? and go at them full fledged. Go at them full fledged. And inshallah ta'ala, you will see results. You know how we constantly say, no, you know, sometimes it takes time. Man, I seen someone drop their flag one day, take their shahada. Next thing you know, 2-3 months from now, the brother got the whole 30 juz of Quran memorized.
No.
So yeah, some things does happen overnight.
No.
But you have to have sincerity that you begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to, you know, to heal you from these type of things.
Yeah. Definitely got to have reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's something that definitely plays a major part. You know, because like I said, you know, is no matter how much people will justify their sinfulness, right? There's still it's still a gateway. There's still something that's leading you, you know, to that, and it has something to do with the nafs, right? You know, like I said, you might be going through something, but you already wanted to abandon the prayer, or you just might be lazy, right? So the issue really ain't that you went through something. The issue is actually that, you know, you really deep down inside, you wanted to miss the prayer, haram food. It ain't just, there ain't no halal around. You just really just want to eat it. That's just really, you just used to eating it. You like it, you know, you love it, and you don't want to give it up. Even if it goes against what Allah Ta'ala is saying, right? But you're not going to come right out and tell people that. You're going to tell them about this sheikh said that, or this and that and the third, you know. So all of these things, when these things are playing a major part, you know, and a major role in keeping you engaged in the wrongdoing, you know, in the sin, and the sin is against you. Keep this in mind. There's also another solution. The sin is against you. It's not for you, it's against you. And don't get to a point where you're engaged in that, you know, or locked in on that particular sin, whatever that behavior may be, to the point where Allah doesn't allow you to die on Tawbah. Right? That's frightening in and of itself. Well, Allah Ta'ala may not allow you to die upon Tawbah. So you have to keep these things in mind, inshallah. So, you know, that's my closing remark. Soullutionz, you know, if you missed it, go back. That's the beautiful thing about this being recorded. You can go back and listen to it again, and you can extract that. Saleh, if you got anything to add, you know, whatever, I'm pretty much done for the night.
Yeah, I'm hit too, man. I'm tired too, bro. I had a long day at work
wrapped
today.
out. I'm about to go watch Coach Dion, baby, prime time. I'm about to go watch the Colorado Buffaloes.
Man, I don't know what I'm about to do, man. I'm trying. Oh man, yo, go watch that joint with the dogs, man. I forgot what it's called. Yo, that joint is hilarious, man.
Which one? What you talking about?
I'm a send it to you. It's a movie, man. I'm gonna send it to you, man. It's about the two dogs. I think Jamie Foxx plays one of the dogs, and it's what's the other white comedian guy, the funny guy, man? He played one of them, man. I'm gonna send it to you. It's hilarious, bro. Watch it.
All right, inshallah.
So
yeah, with that, y'all found the benefit. Like, share, you know, subscribe,
and donate. And donate. I still need an Apple Pen. I'm waiting for my Apple Pen. Mr. Petty Draws is waiting for the Apple Pen.
Nah, inshallah. All right, Saleh, you can give us the dua tonight.
Oh no. Go ahead, brother. You can do the dua. I'm sorry.
Just subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wal 'asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilu salihati wa tawassaw bil haqqi wa tawassaw bis sabr. Inshallah. See you next week. I got a class tomorrow, inshallah. I don't know if people have been, but if you go on our YouTube channel, I've been going over the Muwatta Imam Malik. You know, I think we like 3-4 classes in, so you know you can always catch up, inshallah. Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.